Right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our final session for today. And we've got Edward live. So hello to Ed. Ed is the Innovation Manager for the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Group at RGU. And his talk title today, as you can see, is all about 2023 and beyond and how to shape your tomorrow. So I'll just do a quick bio for him. So step on board for a journey into technologies, trends and innovations that are already influencing the world of tourism, hospitality and events today, but are primed to disrupt and reshape the industry from 2023 and beyond. As we consider the world beyond COVID-19 pandemic, what opportunities are on the horizon that we need to be prepared for, and what challenges will we be responsible for uncovering? So that is what Ed is going to talk about today. So without further ado, I will pass on to Ed.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me along. I hope you've enjoyed the conference. I saw some of the stuff on social media yesterday. It looks really exciting, all the talks that you've had. So I'm hopefully going to take you for the final session on a bit of a time machine. And if you put your Buzz Lightyear voice to 2023 and beyond is the theme that I'm hopefully going with for this session. I'm going to take you on a time machine, as I usually like to do, into some of the trends and some ideas, some innovations, some cool things that I've discovered that might be influencing your careers and the skills that you have to learn in 2023 and your careers beyond that. So come with me as we journey through these planets on our time machine, and we're going to step a few years into the future to see what is emerging. So let's start with tourism, shall we? We're on the planet tourism. Imagine you've just stepped off your futuristic space travel, maybe not quite 2023, and we're going to step into a world. What does it feel like and look like in this world of tourism, and what are some examples of some innovations that we've got popping up there? And I guess one of the things that we have to be aware of, and it wouldn't be a talk in 2022 without looking at it, is that COVID has continued to have an impact. And as we look at the tourism industry in particular beyond 2023, it's not quite recovered. And Google Trends, if you never look for something, if you're wondering, is this on trend or not? Is this happening? What's going on? This is a simple one. So this was cheap flights. That's something that everybody Googles all the time. Literally, if you go to Google Trends and type in cheap flights, you'll be able to see what the trend has been like. And for me, I think this is a good indicator of the travel industry and how it's recovering, because if there's lots of people searching for cheap flights, there's lots of people looking to go on holiday. And as you can tell, the pandemic shot that number straight down. And if you look at the average number of searches in the UK, at least compared to before the pandemic and now, even though lots of people are going on holidays these days, it's not bounced back. So as we look to 2023, we're going to have to see this line continue, and it's still going to have an impact. We're still not going to get up to that same level as we were immediately before, and that's going to shape how successful destinations are, how airlines are operating, how hotels are operating. So that's an initial area where we need to innovate, where we need to inspire people, we need to create new confidence in getting people out and traveling. And when you ask the experts, which isn't me, don't worry, the tourism experts, as you've probably heard over the course of this conference, are still predicting that it's a years to recover before the tourism industry bounces back. You know, only 4% are saying they're going to get to the same occupancy levels or flight levels that they had before the pandemic this year. More are optimistic for next year. 32% think next year's the year we're going to do it, but most are saying it's 2024 or later before the hotels are full, the flights are full, the travel industry is booming again. So this is a challenge that we need to innovate for. We need to push people into the world of tourism and get them going as well. And now let's dive into an airline. You've probably not worked in an airline before, but you know, do you think these companies make so much money? They're so busy, they've got so much going on, but when you really pick into it, I think this is an interesting breakdown of where your money goes. So imagine your ticket. You know, I'm off on holiday next week. I'm spontaneously not sure where I'm going. I think I've mentioned to some of you already, I've booked a holiday through a company that it doesn't tell you the destination. You show up at the airport and you open the app and it tells you the destination there and then. I think tomorrow I find out the weather information 1 week beforehand, so I know what to pack. But who knows where I could end up, somewhere in Europe. So when you imagine that at the airport, that excitement, you've booked your flights, this is where all that money is going. And in 2021, you can see that actually airlines are still making a significant loss. It's a 780 million loss for American Airlines, which is one of the world's biggest. And of course, passenger revenue is that biggest amount coming in. And this is all before you look at things like that they've got a huge cost for their fuel, and that's all before the fuel crisis and the Ukraine crisis came along. So when we think about 2023 and beyond for the tourism industry, we're going to see airlines going out of business. We're going to see airlines changing their pricing models. Will we still be able to maintain those £5 flights that, to be honest, I've never been able to get one, so I don't know how it's possible. But will that even be possible as you kind of look to 2023 and beyond? And what other costs? How are airlines going to have to innovate to make sure they can't sustain that loss year on year? So let's look at some of the innovations. So what are some specific examples that are shaping this industry as we look there? So an article here, nanoneedles, facial recognition, and UV cleaning is also seen in the picture there. So as the world opens to travel, to encourage more people to move around the world again, they're having to innovate, they're having to bring in things. And you can see airlines are now bringing in systems like UV cleaning, where they're having to use these bright lights to desanitize and clean the aircraft as people are going throughout. They're using more facial recognition technology to keep an eye on who the customers are. And they're looking at all these different ways of making the airline industry exciting. My last flight was probably 2019, 2018. And I'm already intrigued to know what it's going to be looking like. And the fear of the logistical challenge continues to put people off airline travel. I was having a conversation with my team the other day at the university, and some people said they never want to travel again. They're done with airplanes. Since the pandemic, this is it. You know, they just can't see both the environmental reasons and the hygiene reasons and just the comfort of it all. They're done. They're looking at trains. They're looking at local trips. They're not wanting to make these gigantic flights. So this consumer trend continues to evolve. In 2023 and beyond, airlines are introducing these new technologies to try and improve that. And we're also seeing innovations around the environmental side of these aircraft. So in particular, electrical and hydrogen aircraft are sort of on the fight. It's going to be a long while away before we get them in commercial flights, but it's something that is emerging, and it's a really good example here. And they're saying that electric airplanes are getting close to a commercial breakthrough. The challenge right now is the batteries are so heavy. If you've ever had anything with a big battery pack in it, you'll know that it's not something simple and easy to take off, and airplanes have to be light. But that's something that we're going to see in 2023 and beyond. And think how much that will open things up. If there suddenly is less of a climate impact from traveling, could we see a lot more aircraft? The other example from this, which I think is fascinating, is drones, electric drones. So the drone taxi system that we've seen in places like Dubai and various other places around the world. All of a sudden, these innovative examples, I say all of this, it sounds futuristic, but these are all real things that are happening today. So as you reflect on this conference and you reflect on what you need to know, perhaps some of these skills and experiences could influence your own decisions about your future career. Could we all be jetting around on drones, electric drones in the future? And now another trend that we're starting to see that will shape 2023 and beyond is the line between travel and work is going to start blurring. So typically when you move to travel to another country, you're there, you're on vacation, you're having fun, you're on the beach, you're going out. But a company called Selena is a hostels company. They're kind of a hotel chain, but they do hostels, and they are really blending the work and the personal. And they have co-working spaces in their hostels. They are a real community experience for everyone who accesses these spaces. They've got hundreds of locations around the world, and they are particularly targeting those digital nomads, the people like yourselves, the events and tourism and hospitality graduates of the future who might be working on your laptops, planning hybrid events. Why do you need to be stuck at home doing that when you could be, you know, in Brazil at a hostel run by Selena, getting access to super fast Wi-Fi, getting access to lunchtime food and meals? That's shaping the way that we see travel as a short-term experience to possibly longer. You're now looking at month-long trips, 3-month trips in the summer where you're working and enjoying your travels as well, or working all the way around the world. And even some of the biggest hotel chains in the world have had to react to this. So Hyatt, the hotel chain, has introduced a work from Hyatt program. So they offer preferential rates and treatment to stay in the hotel for a month or longer. So you get access to the Wi-Fi, you get access to breakfast and lunch, you get meeting rooms, you get conference spaces, all of that to encourage people to travel and work from anywhere in the world. So as hotels still continue to face occupancy issues, perhaps this co-working experience could be amended, and you might see your future career, if you picture yourself in a couple of years' time working in this industry. Maybe you're a travel consultant working in a hotel somewhere around the world, doing Zoom meetings. I don't know if anyone on the call is sitting in a hotel or on a beach somewhere connecting into the conference, but that lifestyle, I don't think people are going to want to be giving up. And especially at the moment, the world's facing the great resignation. More and more people are quitting their jobs than ever before, because things like the luxury of having work from home options. If a company is asking you to go in, maybe you don't want to do that anymore and you decide to change jobs. Incentives like these hotel schemes could be a valuable way that you change that. Another trend that we're starting to see that will influence 2023 and beyond is this local tourism element, you know, wanting to stay closer to home. Camper vans, I don't know if anyone's been on a camper van holiday, but I have this weird feeling in my life. You'll all probably know that I have a dog called Dexter, a golden retriever puppy. I have this vision of just getting in a camper van and, I don't know, driving to Spain and just me and the dog and working from a laptop just anywhere in the world. It's kind of this romanticized notion in my head, but that's becoming a lot more popular. And Honest Camper is a company in America that has exploded its reach since the pandemic. There's one called Cozy Campers, I'm pretty sure it is, in Scotland, that again has boomed since the pandemic, and it means you can rent a motorhome and travel about Scotland. Particularly the North Coast 500 is very popular in that side of things. So could this be something that we have influencing our travel decisions? Are we suddenly looking at, oh, will we go on a flight somewhere where the carbon impact is significantly higher, or will we stay closer to home? And that's something we still continue to wrestle with 2023 and beyond. Now, another really interesting example, we've touched a few because, you know, the environmental causes are continually rippling through this world of 2023 and beyond. And a company I'd not heard of is called Airbnb. And this is a social cooperative that gives people who want to offer spaces in their home, just like Airbnb, the opportunity. They continue to connect travelers to people with platforms, but they are particularly aimed at social causes. They donate commissions to community projects, and they're trying to combat this issue. One of the consequences of Airbnb is that whole idyllic towns have suddenly become devoid of community because these Airbnb properties are so variable. Yes, the properties are full, but all of a sudden every week there's 50 new people in this town. You know, it's always new people coming and going, and there's not a sense of community. Who's there? It's kind of decimated the culture of these streets and economic areas. So while it's good for the owners of the properties, it's not so good for the wider community. And Airbnb is trying to overcome that. It's trying to prevent over tourism, where, you know, there's a certain limit on how many hosts can be in a certain area. And it bans properties owned by businesses that, again, are just a way of just making money. This is about real people connecting with real people. So while these big companies like Airbnb and Uber go up, you'll have the social competitors start to trickle away. And actually, as the world gets a little bit more environmentally conscious, then maybe some of these might be more influential. And another company, another innovation I think is interesting, is a company called Good Wings that help you connect with travel, find hotels, find airlines, but they offset all of your CO2 from your trip. So your stay, your flight, your meals, and it helps you make more eco-friendly decisions as you're traveling. I don't know how many of you have ever tried to calculate your carbon footprint when going on a flight, but it's critical. I was literally just looking at flights the other day, and I noticed on Google Flights, it now has this one has less CO2 emissions than the others. I don't really know how it understands that, but it's now kind of the same way that you pick up something in the supermarket that's got the big red sugar tag on it. Don't eat this, it's unhealthy. Okay, great, I'll buy it. And it might be the same for flights as you go into the future, or hotels. Do they have the right eco credentials to satisfy your desires? And another one, which if anyone's been in one of Craig's classes, you might not like this example because I'm sure it's a business idea that he's been looking at for a while, is a company called City Unscripted that allows you to connect with locals to be your local tour guide. So instead of having kind of tour groups and all these kind of big industrial kind of companies that take you on these trips with their umbrellas and their walkie-talkies. This is a more authentic experience, and I think more tourists are going to be looking for those authentic experiences. So this will connect you to the locals. It gives you that private tour, and it allows you to kind of customize your tour and be a lot more personalized, and they've got tour guides all over the world using a service like this. So again, that authenticity, that personalization, that influence side is going to shape our tourism industry from 2023 and beyond. So if you've not been on holiday recently, possibly have a look at City Unscripted. I know they've got some in Edinburgh as well. And I think the final couple are some of the technological things shaping. So in the pandemic, the Faroe Islands, which is connected to Denmark, came up with a bunch of different innovative ideas to try and still boost the tourism industry. So they did a big global virtual tour where people could actually control the tour. So again, this is an idea Craig probably won't like, but they did strap a GoPro to someone's head to wander around the Faroe Islands and explore the city, which is something that Craig Lee has mentioned before. But they also allow people to control things. They had a kind of live stream of what was happening so that everyone could get involved as a sort of one-time project. They don't run it anymore, but it was an interesting response to the pandemic that you can have a look and see. And beyond that, there's also the concept of this extended reality. Do you need to travel to even travel? And this, we often talk about these things as if they're very futuristic, but here's an example that's right here, right now. So there's an app called Explore, so Explore Petra, and it allows you to use augmented reality to have a look. I can't remember what this monument's called, but you can, if you Google Petra, I'm sure it'll be one of the key monuments that you see, and you can explore it. And I think it's partially educational tool, but partially option for tourism, so that you can see these gorgeous world monuments from the comfort of your home or the comfort of the location, so you can see where you're going. And as you see applications in maps and all sorts of areas, this extended reality suddenly takes what is a very tangible physical trip and brings that digital element to life. And my final crazy one is to have a think about the space tourism race that is also going to possibly shape. Now, I don't imagine it'll be for us in 2023, but certainly the beyond. And it wouldn't be a Buzz Lightyear talk if we didn't talk about the intergalactic missions. And of course, there's lots of progress in this. We've got Elon Musk, you've got Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson all sort of competing in this area. But what's interesting is if you look at the actual financial performance, there's a lot of hype around this. And Virgin Galactic in particular, you can see that their stock price in particular has fluctuated a lot. And yes, okay, it was at 12 billion when Richard Branson took his test flight, but it dived all the way down to 2 billion not long after that. So we see these as these big up and coming industries, but actually it'll be interesting to track. It's hard to tell with this space tourism side. Does the demand exist beyond the billionaires and the celebrities, or is it just a bit too much hype? And as the wider space issues come into play, things like, again, another Elon Musk one, but they've got this Starlink satellite system that's going to get us internet all around the world. But the challenge with that is they're putting literally hundreds of satellites above our heads, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So while the sky is big, shoving rockets through webs of hundreds of satellites is a bit of a recipe for a disaster. So it's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on as we continue to capitalize on space a little bit more. Okay, let's keep diving on. We now move on to the second planet, which is our hospitality planet, the world of service and restaurants. So have a look. So one thing we're all familiar with, I'm sure we've all got one, had one in the past, is the delivery ecosystem, this gig economy side of things. But as we look at 2023 and beyond, it seems like it's a very growing industry, but the margins are so tight. And there's a really great podcast called Land of the Giants that has a whole series on these delivery wars. And actually DoorDash, which is an American one, is worth more now than Uber Eats, I'm pretty sure, or worth more than Uber. I can't remember which one it is. And it's, this is a very flexible space. These margins are so fixed that actually it's difficult to tell which one of these is going to survive, because when you look at it for the restaurant side of things in particular, they're making a loss pretty much on every order, and the platforms continue to increase their prices. And there's a lot of restaurants boycotting the platforms, fighting against them. They needed them in the pandemic, and now they're struggling to get off of them. But the demand, you know, for the drivers are getting a small share, the restaurants are getting a smaller share, the price of food is going up, the price of labor is going up, the price of rent is going up. And of course, the platforms have to keep the prices low to keep us using it. But of course, the platforms are increasing their share as well. So what is the financial model for this delivery ecosystem in a few years' time? You will, if you're in the hospitality industry, will be confronted with this delivery side of things, but will it still work? How will we make it work? And that's a challenge for us to consider. And linked to that, an interesting one is the concept of ghost kitchens. So 2023 and beyond, more and more big players are investing in the ghost kitchen model. Rachel's on the call. It's not actually too ghosty, unfortunately, but it is kitchens that run in existing restaurants that have no brands. So you could be, I know if you see it at many of the restaurants in Aberdeen, if you look on Deliveroo, you'll see this chicken wing company or the burrito company, and it's actually Frankie and Benny's. You know, they use digital presences, digital brands to create products. I know Mr. Beast, who's a gigantic YouTuber, is setting up virtual ghost kitchens in restaurants around the world using his brand to sell products on digital platforms like Uber Eats and Deliveroo, but that restaurant doesn't exist. You can't physically go there. You can't sit in and dine. So it was a bit of a response to the pandemic and a way of boosting some income, but actually a lot of celebrities and a lot of restaurants are finding them a valuable way to bring in extra money through digital platforms in a way that they don't need to double up on physical premises. So if you've got a restaurant that's not particularly busy at lunchtime, could you be selling, you know, Sally soups at lunchtime and all of a sudden bring in more money over the lunch period than you would have done with your physical restaurant? If you've been to Cartoo's at the beach in Aberdeen, you'll also be familiar with the introduction of waiting staff robots, and a particular gigantic robotic company called Bear Robotics has had a big investment of £81 million. So they say follow the money. So the money is showing that this is an area that's in demand. And if you've seen the pressure that hospitality work is under, then if you're going into hospitality, you're going to be confronted with robotics. And you can see these are real life examples that are happening today in our industries. A slightly further example is the influence of cryptocurrency, and this particular restaurant called Campbell Flair in America has actually set up their own cryptocurrency called Campbell Coin, so that people can pay. Now, yes, not many people do pay with cryptocurrency, but the trend is evolving, and more restaurants are starting to see that as a valuable form of currency that you can start to pay for things. So how will that influence the way that hospitality work is done, and how will that flexibility of the price point change over time? And we've seen this already. Another similar trend is beyond hospitality, beyond sit-in hospitality. The meal delivery at home approach is also changing as well. So HelloFresh in particular has a huge surge in demand. I'm sure many of you have got it yourself. So celebrities are releasing their own delivery boxes. You've got cook at home options. There's been a huge growth in this. So you can see percentage growth over time. HelloFresh is roughly 50% on month. They're growing and growing and growing. There's a few other options that are particularly US based, but this is a space that you probably wouldn't have imagined a few years ago and wouldn't have worked a few years ago, but is now a significant part of the way that we treat ourselves, about the way that we engage with hospitality. So how do we create that sense of experience? How do restaurants and brands keep their messaging when people are cooking it at home? In the lockdown, I got myself a T.H.E's cook at home kit when TGI Fridays was closed. And if I'm honest, it was kind of rubbish. It just didn't taste the same. I'm maybe not the greatest of cooks, but it's not the same. And I think part of it is it's just not the same experience. It just sort of tasted like kind of oven food. So it's interesting to see how that will evolve. And of course, I couldn't talk about hospitality without talking about the continued rise in plant-based food and veganism. So there's some examples here of the world's top chefs offering vegan menus. So that is becoming more required as we kind of move forward in this. And I guess I've got a quick quiz for everyone, and I don't know if you'll guess it, but we'll see. So you might be able to pop it in the chat if you want to. So this is your guess. What are the top cities with the most vegan restaurants per 100,000 people? So feel free to pop in the chat. Any cities that you can guess are in this top list of the most vegan restaurants per 100,000 people. So it's an interesting mix. We'll see what comes in, but I'll quickly show you the first one. I think it's quite surprising. So London, I guess, for London. Interesting, yeah, London. I don't think London's on the list, but I think London's too big. I think it's got too many people. So it's probably not cities with the most gigantic populations, because there's far too many options in that. I've got Edinburgh, I've got a Delhi. So let's have a look. So Salt Lake City, most of you, they're quite unknown cities, but when you can sort of see the trend as they're going through. The UK one, I think there's only one UK one, which is here, which is Brighton. Brighton is on there. So I'm pretty sure London has more vegan restaurants than Brighton, but per 100,000 people, actually, the density of people who have that eco mindset, who are a bit more, yeah, I don't know, natural or backpackery style, I'm not sure, might be in there. You've got Lisbon in Portugal, you've got Portland in the US, you've got Tel Aviv in Israel, you've got Phuket in Thailand, and this surprised me, you've got Bali, which when you start to see these top ones, and then Chiang Mai in Thailand as well. So when you think about that traveler community, that not travelers as in a kind of, you know what I mean, backpackers, gap year people, in a kind of that side of things, there's a clear market as people are traveling around the world. Phuket, Bali, Chiang Mai, there's a trend of veganism going across those spaces as well. And as you could tell, the interest in veganism just continues to grow, and you can see in the UK it's going straight up as well. So that's something that all hospitality venues are going to have to account for as they go forward. And in Seattle, another interesting innovation we've got here is the first self-pour tap room. So again, confronting the staffing crisis, allowing customers their own options, being able to pour their own drinks, cook their own food, get involved in that experience. It's not just about sitting and dining, but actually being part of it. You could choose which drink you want. You can experiment. You can, you know, tap your card to easily pay for things. You don't need to confront physical humans at the time. So it's an interesting example there. And if anyone has gone to New York, this is something I would be interested to try, although I think it'd be a bit embarrassing, is the more experience focused side. So restaurants aren't just about going out there and getting food anymore. So Ellen's Stardust Diner allows you to spin the wheel of musicals that you can see behind there, and the staff get up on the tables and they perform for the audience. So it's kind of like, you know, again, TGI Fridays, when they sing the happy birthday song, imagine that, but it's musical numbers. I've seen a few TikToks around it, and it's really impressive what they do. But that changes the way you dine. I've also seen some great examples of the rude diners. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is where the staff are deliberately paid to be horrible to you. They swear at you, they throw things at you, if you ask for their order, they'll completely insult you. So this quirky niche experience element becomes a lot more prevalent and a lot more important in the way that we consume our food. Okay, final couple of minutes, I'm going to have to whiz through this, but we're now finally looking at innovation in events, and I'm going to whiz through this because there's a lot of event students on the call, and I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of these, but these are my predictions on Planet Event. Is, of course, Metaverse. We're not free from the hybrid event at all, and there is a continued balance of what is the value of the metaverse. I think anyone who's been to a physical event, those who were at the conference yesterday, I'm sure you felt the power of being in the room. It's a lot more effective than being online. And I think we're going to continue to need that. But is the consequence of having to travel to go to something for a one-day meeting worth it when you've got the power of this technology? And this year, there was the first ever metaverse digital fashion show. So even the big players, I'm pretty sure it was Gucci, have invested in this space. There's a lot of fashion brands who are competing to have the rights to the fashion outfits in the metaverse. So there's a lot of work going on in here and a lot of space for the event side to keep on top of. Facial ID, there's a company called EventX that is using facial ID for check-in. So again, contactless experience, but greater data, so they can see you and track you as you're going about the event space. And they said it sped up the entry process by hours for the attendees. I think they had about 9,000 attendees at an event, and it sped up the process significantly to use facial ID. Other aspects are the increased use of wearable technology. So you could have wristbands, you could have smartphones, you could have eyewear. We've now got access to a huge amount of data, the way we pay, the way we check into things, the way that we access the event program. All of that becomes a more interactive experience when we've got all of this smart technology that we can use. You don't need to hand out paper programs. You don't need to hand out business cards when you might just be able to tap your RFID bracelet to someone's phone and it automatically pulls up your LinkedIn account, for example. And one we're all familiar with is the side of augmented reality. No longer do we have to rely solely on what we see in front of us. We can now be pulling in more and seeing, you know, interactive signage that's personalized to us. We can connect with the displays and the exhibits and add to the event experience with more interactive material. So for 2023 and beyond, at the moment, although we're all aware of this, and you're probably sitting there going, yes, we've heard of this before, this is coming, and these are real examples that happen today. So we're going to have to be more prevalent in what we're thinking about for them. A scary one is the increased use of robots for security. So when you think about events, you've got Singapore police using robots to scan, to use cameras, to use sensors, to keep track of your face ID, all sorts of elements like that. So could we be seeing that at events more and more? The last couple, I think, is Time Kettle have got earbuds now that can automatically translate your event. So imagine having an international conference where you've got a speaker in front of you and you don't need to suddenly have hundreds of translators doing every language. Everybody just gets an earbud that automatically translates the communication as you're going through the event. For tourism, for travel, for hospitality, there's real value in that space. And an idea that I really like actually is the concept of silent seminars or silent discos. So again, as you're thinking about disability needs, I guess people with autism, but also just to create that sense of experience, there's a new trend in conferences where people can have their headsets on, much like a silent disco, and you can have 3 people in the same room giving a different presentation, and your attendees can switch between the different speakers so that they can have a slightly different experience as well. And the final example to give you is, of course, the holographic Whitney Houston and various other celebrities. 2023 and beyond, these are tours that are already happening. So this holographic concert revolution is here. So you might be going to see these experiences with CG created celebrities performing on stage when they're not actually there. I think there's been ABBA ones, there's Buddy Holly, all sorts of different performances. The experience may actually feel the same as long as you're in the room, you've got the band, you've got the performance, you've got the lights, it still creates something. So there's a huge financial opportunity in this space as well. So thank you so much for your time. I think we'll come back on the rocket ship. Some of you have probably heard some of those examples similarly, but I hope you take the time to reflect on why that's valuable to you and your potential career, and how 2023 and beyond, Dexter loves it, he can't wait for the robots, how 2023 and beyond might influence you. So I'll leave it there and I'll hand back to Lexy to close off today's conference. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi guys, so if anyone has any questions for Ed, feel free to unmute and ask away, or you can pop them in the chat, and then when that's done, I will close up the conference.
I would agree, very suspicious of all these robots. What are they going to do with all this data? My goodness, they're going to know me better than I do. I still already think it's super fascinating when you go into things like Facebook and see exactly what they know about you. You know, if you click on an advert on Facebook and click on the 3 dots and click, why am I seeing this? It gives you this whole list of things as to what they think they know about you. When do I personally think events will go back to normal? Great question. I guess it's the standard answer. I think so there's crazy predictions. I think we're going to have a real rush in the next 2-3 years of physical. I think there's going to be a real demand to be in the room, to be connecting with people. But I absolutely think that hybrid is going to have to stay around. You're going to have to constantly be live streaming different activities. I think the physical needs to be a real incentive. You know, there has to be a real experience to get people there, because the option to just click off and do something else is too strong. So I think in spaces like live events, experience, you know, concerts, gigs, festivals, that's going to come back to normal, you know, by this summer. You know, I can't, you know, even by Christmas, I think we will, you know, it'll all be normal. I think business is going to be much slower. I think trade conferences, exhibitions, that's going to be hybrid for quite a while. Yeah, I think that part of the industry is going to be a little bit slower. What have we got? Ooh, maybe Ghost will be running the events. Ooh, possibly. Favorite piece of technology from the list? Interesting. I mean, I like the silent conference thing, which is completely, I mean, that's not even that innovative. That's very obvious, but I just thought that was a really cool idea. I think there's so much potential around the data side of things. So things like, you know, the Face ID and the sort of tracking and that sort of information. It's so complicated to get right, but I think there's so much we could learn. Imagine knowing when your attendees attend an event or, you know, are traveling with you, you know, having insight into what they enjoyed the most and how to make their experience better and how to personalize it to them. You know, if you could really understand, hi, this person's coming to our hotel today, what could we make their experience better? What music do they like? What color do they like? What kind of temperature? That really creates the opportunity for surprise. And I think for all of our professions, it's about that experience, that surprise, that enjoyment, that wonder. You know, why would we get engaged? Why would we go out to eat when we can eat at home? Why would we travel when we live in a place already? And why would we go to an event when we can consume content at home? All of that, our entire industries are about wonder and memory and experience. And the more that we can curate that to excite people and delight people, the better. And I think the data side and the kind of technology that comes with that can, yeah, be really valuable. If people are around for a few more minutes, I wasn't sure of the timing. I want to see what everybody has preferences for. So if you want to play a Menti, you might not want to, but I can't resist it because you know me, I love a Menti, but I'm interested to see what you guys think as well. So I'll keep answering questions, but I've also put together this quick prediction. So if you want to click the link in the chat or go to the Menti at the top, I'm going to flick through some of my predictions and see what you guys think you would rather have. So let's have a look and see if you can click on and do it. So I think the first one, we'll see the instructions at the top, is so at the start I was talking about that going on a camper trip locally versus going away and working in some digital nomad area. If anyone has a preference, let us know. Pop it in the Menti. And Lexy, just let me know if you want me to shut up at any point. Because I appreciate everyone's had a long, busy conference, but I think I'm about the same. I think I would absolutely prefer that longer working holiday. I'm already trying to figure out how I could be sitting on a beach somewhere doing different meetings. So yeah, I think I would agree with that. Okay, so traveling on an electric plane or offsetting your travel emissions, which one would you prefer in terms of your trends? Or which one do you think is the most realistic? I'm not sure. It's a bit tighter this time. Traveling on electric planes do sound like they would be better. My only nervousness is, I guess, what happens if you have to circle the airport a few times? It's not so easy to kind of refuel up in the air, but I guess you've got that with the normal planes anyway. So I'm sure they figure that out. But yes, it's definitely rather not create emissions rather than just offsetting them. So that makes sense. Virtual reality trips from home or augmented reality. So you saw that kid playing with the Petra. Would you rather be at home exploring the pyramids? Or would you rather be at the pyramids holding something up or wearing your goggles with signs coming up saying, this is where Tutankhamun stayed, or those types of things? Yeah, I think that there's a big preference for that augmented. That people ask me that, I think at another innovation event was, do you think virtual reality or augmented reality? And for me, I think augmented reality is a lot more interesting and being focused in the world. I can't remember which tech company it was. One of them is a lot more bought in to, I think it's maybe Google, I'm not sure, a lot more bought into augmented reality than virtual reality. Facebook's very built into the virtual reality, but there's an argument that that just detracts you from the world. Would you rather have a robotic waiter at a restaurant or have a delivery at home from a ghost kitchen? Yeah, I think I'm the same as well. I'd be robotic waiter. Although a generation of people are going to miss out on those enriching experiences of working in a bar, working in a restaurant, having people moan at you, dealing with customer service. Where are we going to get all of our horror stories for? That's where all my closest friends, we all moan about working in the service industry. Okay, robotic waiter wins it. Would you rather work at or eat at a fully vegan restaurant or eat at a live performance restaurant where, you know, there's people singing karaoke, jumping on the tables, shouting at you? Okay, interesting. Veganism not quite taken off yet. I'm still not 100%, well, not convinced. I know it's there, but I've not found vegan food that I like, but I'm too fussy anyway. So I think I would also be quite up for the interactive one. Okay, last couple and then I'll close up. Would you rather have an event in metaverse or a holographic event? Whitney Houston, live. Oh, that was quick. Event in the metaverse is more popular. Interesting. Wow, okay. That's not what I would expect. I think I prefer the holographic because I get to still have the experience of being in the room with everyone. Last two, I think. Would you rather have facial recognition tickets, so you walk into the event and it automatically detects you, or have those translation earpods so that you can be chatting away to someone and they totally know what you understood? Translation. That is pretty cool, to be fair. That is pretty innovative. I'll have to buy some. I kind of expected that not to exist, but it exists. It's there. We could buy them. So there you go. I think the last one is, would you prefer wearable technology tracking you or security robots at your event? So would you rather the event organizers are looking at security robots that are scanning all your movements, or saying, oh, they've connected their AirPods or they've connected their Apple Watch, they're standing in this place? Okay, more security robots. Interesting. So more of that, people zoning out rather than them knowing, yes, okay, their blood pressure is this much, they must be enjoying it, or, oh no, their eyes are looking sad, they must not be enjoying it. Great. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions, and thank you for entertaining my little mentee thing. It's interesting to see what everybody else thinks as well. I think I'll hand back to Lexy to wrap up the conference for the day.
All right, well, another big thank you to Ed, of course, for speaking to us live today. It's always nice having someone in person. So Ed, really appreciate you taking time out to be with us. I know you're very busy, so thank you. So that is our final session for the Tourism, Hospitality and Events Conference 2022. All of our sessions from yesterday and today will be posted on YouTube. So if you just go on any of our social media, you can find our YouTube channel there. And thank you again to everyone for attending, and have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you.